Hi, welcome. If you haven't tuned in before, I'm Meredith McCarthy, and this is going to be a session around dealing with quitting smoking or vaping. Vaping is definitely taken over from smoking. There are a lot of people who have never smoked before, yet they've got addicted to vaping. So if we think about being nicotine-free or smoke-free, whatever that version is, whether it's vape-free or smoke-free, it is the same journey. The mindset matters. And if we want to put our mind into a better place to prepare for change, it's really important that you start to dress rehearse success. If we think in our mind, oh, this is going to be really hard, I'm going to struggle through this, you probably will. Mindset matters. If, however, you say, hey, I'm going to make this really easy, I'm making peace with this, it's going to feel better and better every day that passes, it probably will, because your mindset matters. Every time you have a thought, you're going into a form of hypnosis. You're compounding that thought in that internal space that counts. Energetically, if you're talking yourself into something, we need to also think, what's in it for me? One of the most important things that I learned is around the pros and cons of change. So what's in it for me? If I were to be vape-free, smoke-free, what would life be like? What are the benefits of quitting? So if you're out there and you're wanting to break free, then I really invite you to write those things down. More money, more time, maybe even that baseline feeling of being relaxed because you don't have to cater to an addiction anymore. There are definitely people who are reporting that their anxiety levels are higher when they started vaping. So it's really quite interesting. We can self-soothe naturally. We can have a natural breathing break. We don't have to have a vape break or a cigarette break to make ourselves feel okay. We are a walking pharmacy. Our mind has the ability to produce happy hormones through the thoughts we think. And that's how powerful you are. When I think about the clients that I've worked with, I have dealt with very, very addicted people, people who are really finding it chronic. And even the idea of never having a vape or a smoke sends them into anxiety. I promise you, when you are out of an addiction, you don't feel the pain of the addiction anymore. It leaves. It's an illusion. It's not as solid as you might think it is. Mindset matters. And saying the right things, the right suggestions to yourself is a big part of success. I want to introduce the idea of putting things in the past tense. So I had been, I was, I used to. I had been a smoker. That would suggest now you're not, right? So I had been someone who used to vape would suggest now you don't vape. Putting the story of belief, your identity story, in the right tense really helps. Even if it's the first second that you're smoke-free or vape-free. From now on, I used to do that. Now I go about life in a more peaceful way, feeling more and more happy, healthy, all of those things. So if you're thinking about quitting smoking or vaping, it can be useful to set a quit date. Now, the 31st of May every year is World Smoke-Free Day. And I'd like to think that it gets people thinking about their addiction cycle. Now, I talked in the last talk time a little bit about relapse prevention, but I didn't really get into it. And that is also important. It's not just about quitting smoking or vaping. It's about staying quit. It's that long game. So it's not that next party that you go into, you suddenly relapse, even though that you've been great for the last month or two. There is a con that goes on with an addiction. And that con often happens where you slip mentally well before you have a vape or a cigarette going into your mouth. It's that mental justification. Oh, I've been pretty good. It wasn't really that hard. I could have the odd one socially. I reckon I could be okay with that. So have you ever been in that situation where that mental con has got you? So it's just that one puff and you're away as if you never quit. Learn from that. Learn from others. You don't have to relapse in that way ever again, but it is important to notice the nature of the con. The other one is stress. A lot of people smoke or vape to deal with stress better. It might give them a time out from whatever it is that was causing them stress. It may be their thinking tool, right? However, whether you're a smoker or not, you have this amazing mind that can work things out. You can have a break. You don't have to have a cigarette with the break or the vape. You can have a break and think things out, distance yourself, go for a walk, do something more empowering than having the vape or the smoke. So planning ahead, going, okay, if I'm really stressed, what would I like to do to deal with that stress in a new way? One of the most powerful tools in your toolkit, which is available to you anywhere you are, is how you breathe. So when we breathe in twice in a row and then slowly sigh it out, it creates a relaxation response in our body. So breathing in, and then slowly out. Allowing the exhalation to be way longer than the inhalations put together. Now, breathing diaphragmatically is actually what people do when they vape or they smoke. So they inhale deeply and exhale slowly. And that helps the nicotine uptake go into the brain to hit the pleasure center. Dopamine and nicotine are very similar in structure. So it kids the brain into thinking that it needs the nicotine to feel okay. But actually, people have been calming themselves without nicotine forever, just by breathing in the right way. So there is something about coming back to that foundation of deep breathing, diaphragmatic breath, that helps to signal into the central nervous system, I'm safe, all is well, I can get through this. A positive mindset is also something to build. What do I want to continue to remember that's going to help me to stay vape-free or smoke-free? And it could be as simple as saying to yourself, actually, if I did that, it's inviting stress back in. It's an issue rather than a solution. Because no bit of vape or smoke has ever solved anything. It's just added to your stress, because then you're hopping into an addiction cycle again that you have to cater to, that costs too much money, and it costs your health and happiness. So if we think about that mindset of hypnotherapy, and getting the right positive suggestion going, this is definitely something to take time with. What do you want to say that's a positive affirmation that's going to remind you for the long game where you want to sit, where you want to be? I used to, I had been, I was, now I am smoke-free, vape-free forever and ever. Amen. So when we're kind of looking at that idea of overcoming any kind of addiction cycle regarding nicotine, the other trap is the nicotine cycle with the gum and the patches and so on. You do not need nicotine in your system to feel happy in life. A lot of people are medicating using nicotine, but your mind is magical. And when we change our story of belief about ourselves, we can lift ourselves naturally. No nicotine required, but we have that ability to do that. When I'm working with my clients, I'm very curious about what's motivated them to want to quit. So I talk about the pros and cons. I talk about what's in it for you. And sometimes they say, I just want to have more money, or I want to get pregnant, or I want to be around longer for my grandchildren. There's all sorts of reasons why people come to that point where they're done doing that habit. A lot of times, though, vaping seems a little bit less, what we call it, dangerous. But we do not know the long-term effects of long-term vaping. We don't know what these products are going to do for you. One thing I do know is that any foreign substance that doesn't belong in your lungs cannot be good for you. So when we're exiting that cycle, that behavior, that is a really big freedom, that you're allowing permission for your lungs to breathe like they were designed to be healthy and happy long term. If you are wanting support to quit smoking, you can visit my website, meredithmccarthy.com. I do Zoom sessions, so I can talk to anyone no matter where you are in the world. If you want to learn how to support others to break addiction cycles and become a clinical hypnotherapist, we do train people. So I've got a 1,000-hour diploma course in clinical hypnotherapy, and we definitely have a whole section just about addictions and helping people overcome them for life. You can visit the website nzach.ac.nz. If you've liked this episode, please comment, share. What was it that you enjoyed? What was helpful about what we covered today? And I'll be back again in another week, and hopefully this one's inspired maybe yourself, or maybe you could pass it on to someone else who's thinking about quitting. I have some quitting tips on my meredithmccarthy.com site as well. You're welcome to check that out. And I really am passionate about helping people overcome any kind of addiction, whether it's nicotine or alcohol or drugs, okay? And hypnotherapy definitely is a way of supporting that client's mental mindset, because mindset matters. So tune in again next week for our next talk time. Thank you for those that have subscribed and are following along on this journey where I get to share the stuff that I'm passionate about out to the world. So thank you again for tuning in, and see you next week. Bye.